So everybody, welcome to the Iqra principle. Fatihat Iqra, experiencing the Arabic Quran in the and in the now. When we say a person reads in Arabic, we say yaqra'u qira'atan. We don't say yaqra'u Qur'anan unless it is the Quran. And that's very important. When we say yaqra'u Qur'anan, he or she gathers, carries, deliberates, witnesses in the now, serves and shares. It's superlative, it's emergent, it is current, it is the now. And that's the definition, the grammatical definition of anything which follows the verb when it becomes a noun in the tune of fa'lan, ala wazn fa'lan. Then it means that it's in the now, superlative and emergent. Our research method starts with the Arabic Quran, context and language, and of course, cross-referencing within it, looking up the oldest lexicons that you can get your hands on, gaining insight from authentic prophetic tradition, of course, and the knowledge left to us by every single person who preceded us and left us their books and their wisdom, mashallah. So we'll start Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
ربنا علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وصل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد. Today's discussion is Fitnah Part 3, Importance of Names and Linguistic Definitions, the Quran, Fatana and Fitnah, Shaytaan's MO, God's favor and mercy, our communion, our tasbih, anger as in definitions, ghayth versus ghadab, and what to do regarding anger, what to do regarding fitnah, taqwa and communion, and alaq, which is our live relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how to reclaim love, which is ours to reclaim, and of course, a special divine love, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for us, and the concluding prayer. So as far as definitions, we're going to recap. So some of them I'm going to go a little bit fast, some of them a recap of last two sessions. So the root verb fatana is about trial and practical assessment or evaluation. Fatan is to burn. That's the act of fatan, and it means to burn. ابتلاء واختبار ومن ذلك الفتنة يقال فتنت أفتن فتنا وفتنت الذهب بالنار. So that's what is done with metals, precious metals, with their ores to extract their ores. But they call it in a scientific name extractive metallurgy. So in the inferno, which is the terribly hot and unbearable fire, which has to go to a certain degree of heat so that the metals are decomposed. What happens is that in an inferno, metals are extracted from the composite ores. The process decomposes the compound, drives off unstable elements, and extracts and leaves behind pure metal base only. So that's what it does to what? To metal. But that's what it does also to metal. So we have here two spellings. One is the metal of ma'adin al-ashya, like jamad, like what we call, gold or iron or whatever. And then you have metal, double TLE, which is al-ma'adin, ma'adan al-insan. It is human character, human metal. So these two words are beautiful that you can actually use them both. So we have those two words, metal, AL, and metal, double TLE, which we use when we talk about what? Fitnah. So now most of you are using those words, and I'm so glad to see you use them. So fitnah is a trial by fire, which is extracting human metal. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about fitnah in the Quran, he is talking about the fitnah, a trial by fire, which extracts human metal, human character. It actually extracts it from whatever is binding it, decomposing our core and driving off other elements, extracting and leaving behind our pure metal only. And of course, with this metal, the heart and brain are connected. All living things have an electromagnetic field. When you change the field, you change how the atom behaves. And if you change the magnetic field also, you will change the atom. So these are two famous effects, the Stark effect and the Zeeman effect. Our world is made of electrical magnetic energy, and the heart produces the strongest electrical feed and the strongest magnetic field, which is why we feel, subhanAllah, when we go somewhere, we say, oh, I have a great feeling about that. I'm getting good vibes. That's what we say, good vibrations. What actually it is that person's heart and brain, which is giving you those vibes. And you feel, because as you see in this slide, they interconnect. So this interconnection is what you feel when you're sitting with somebody. So fitna is, of course, something we impose upon each other just by being there. We don't always intend to have fitna, but we just, by being there, we cause fitna. So verse 20 informs the Messenger والسلام, and all listeners, which is us, of Surah Al-Furqan. What does it say? That جَعَلْنَا بَعْضَكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ فِتْنَةً أَتَصْبِرُونَ. So this gives us a clue that we have made or rendered some of you a trial by fire to the rest of you. And of course, we're all trying each other by fire in different ways. Of course, and some fitnas are just, very benign, and some fitnas are more, but it's all a kind of fitna. But the question is, أَتَصْبِرُونَ. Would you forbear? Would you bear it with patience? So also, our wealth and our children try us by fire. We spoke about this last week, because we are ready to do anything to preserve our wealth, some people, and also all of us are ready to do anything for our children. So that tries us by fire, because we sometimes have to do or need to do or are tempted to do something which is not what we should be doing. So that's why they are trying us by fire. It's a fiery time when we have to decide to do the right thing or to do what will save our child. It's a fiery time, trial by fire. So all worldly trappings, everything that is around us is ta'a or mut'a. It is all a trial by fire. وَلَا تَمُدَّنَّ عَيْنَيْكَ إِلَى مَا مَتَّعْنَا بِهِ أَزْوَاجًا مِّنْهُمْ. So of course you have here تَمُدَّنَّ, you have that noon التوكيد. So this is actually about, don't you dare, almost saying, do not ever, it's like giving you that the shadda there, la tamuddanna, not la tamud, which is what you would say to somebody, la tamud, but la tamuddanna, that's the noon is giving you tawkid there. Do not ever extend your eyes towards whatever amenities, al-mata' ila ma matta'na bihi azwaja minhum here is what different types of people, which they enjoy as finery of this lowly life, but it is all there. Why? To try them with. لِنَفْتِنَهُمْ فِيهِ, to try them with by fire. So that tells you that everything, worldly trappings, are a trial by fire. And what should we do? أَتَصْبِرُونَ. So trial by fire extracts our metal, METTLE, and this whole process, what does it do? It decomposes our core, and it extracts and leaves behind only our pure metal. And we hope that this is how we end, with the pure metal, because we have the sabr. Fitna is Shaytaan's MO. It's his modus operandi. The way he works, actually, it's part of what he does. It's his job description. So his job description is to do fitna with us. And of course, what he uses is the two weaknesses he knows we have, because he tried them. He tried that with Adam. And of course, the two weaknesses are what? شجرة الخلد وملك لا يبلى. So that's how he tried Adam, and he was successful to a certain degree. So Shaytaan, what he does is he leads us away from behaviors. Now listen to this. Whatever behaviors, the options we have in front of us, behaviors, deeds, feelings, that uphold purity, Shaytaan's MO is to lead us away from that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, oh, you who have attained faith, do not trace or follow the missteps of the deviant Shaytaan. Now those of you who have been with us for a while, you know that the meaning of khatawat is actually khatu'at, that it's the same word in the lexicon, khatu'at and khatawat. And actually there's a reading in the Quran that some read it khatu'at. So لا تتبعوا خطوات أو خطوات أو خطوات الشيطان. So when you follow خطوات الشيطان, what happens to you? He guides you to something that will ruin your core. It will dislodge. It will dislodge characteristics in you. Now, problem is that what he dislodges is our good characteristics. So we're talking here about gold, which is left after its ores have, melted away or gone. And so you're left with the gold, or they heat at different levels. But here what Shaytaan is doing, he doesn't want to leave you with the gold. He wants to leave you with the garbage, and he wants the gold to be the one which is dislodged. So it's really very dangerous. So we should not follow the khutuwat of Shaytaan. We should be very careful. Don't follow his missteps. What does he do? He commands you to pervasive atrocity and what is mutually objectionable. And when we talked about pervasive atrocity, we talked about fahsha. Even the meanings of the sounds. Remember, we talked about meanings of sounds. The fa, the ha, the sh. All of that is about pervasive atrocity, something that will spread just like a breeze, just like the wind. So this is very dangerous, and this is what Shaytaan is trying to do today, and many of you have spoken about this, and I know that you're going to present it inshallah next week. So he commands to al-fahsha, and he commands to al-munkar. Al-munkar is what is mutually objectionable, what everybody who has a proper pure heart will object to. So what does Allah say here? He says, and if not for God's favor upon you and his mercy, not one of you would have ever grown or become pure. Of course, the word here is what? Ma zaka minkum min ahadin. And we know that tazkiyah and zakah is about purity, but purity with growth. So if not for God's favor upon you, and if not for his mercy, not one of you would have ever been able to grow and become pure. For it is God, okay, now listen to this. This can be read both ways. It is God who causes whomever he wills to grow in purity, or it is God who causes whomever wills to grow in purity. فالضمير في يشاء could be to the minkum and ahad, yourselves, or it could be to Allah. Allahu a'lam, yani. And in other ayahs, actually, I had proof, and I showed it to you once, that it is actually possible to be, when we say yahdi man yasha, yani man yasha al-hidayah, it could be. So this is the same thing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does he do? Allahu yuzakki man yasha. So whoever wants to grow pure does become pure. And of course, we know that so many of the group here who are listening today, so many of them were not born believers in Allah and the Quran. You may have believed in, let's say, Jesus or another deity, and now you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Quran and his message. What happened? Weren't you searching? You were searching. Weren't you trying to purify yourself? You were. Even when I look at, of course it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's his favor. Of course, I'm not saying it's not. It is definitely his favor, and it is his mercy. But it's also the fact that I wanted it very much. So all of these work together, they come together, and they cause something to happen. So don't say, Lama Allah bihdini bin hada, like when Allah guides me, I'll be guided. So it's not up to me. It is up to you to search. So Shaytaan wants you to do what? To leave the gold in your metal and retain what is not even, it's worse than garbage. He wants you to retain what will harm you. So also the deviant transgressor, the Shaytaan, what does he do? His missteps. He wants you to consume also what is not halal and not tayyib, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, consume of the earth what is unbound and wholesome. What has been fi hil, it's unbound. And what is what? Wholesome, it's healthy. And Shaytaan wants you to not to do that. He would like you to eat something which is not healthy for you and not purifying, and will damage the earth and damage your body as well. So what does Shaytaan also do? We've spoken about this recently, especially because of what's happening around us. Shaytaan prods humanity towards illicit sexual activities and misguided customs. So sometimes we do certain things because our peers, the people our age are doing it, especially when we're young. We might be doing certain things because our classmates are doing it, our peers in college are doing it, our friends are doing it. And it could be an illicit sexual activity. It could be what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, calls fahsha. And also, we could be following customs, certain customs that our families, our towns, our entourage, the people whom we go around with, certain customs that they do might not be good, even as customs. So we have to pick and choose. But Shaytaan, he prods us towards those things. And this is what the ayahs say, that he commands you to harm and pervasive atrocity, and to say about God what you do not know. So many people sort of say something and they say, God said that. That's not true. One shouldn't say that. Or we shall follow the way we found our forefathers. بل نتبع ما ألفينا عليه آباءنا. Many of us say that, and that's also not correct. That's what Shaytaan does, and that is fitna. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very clearly, O children of Adam. And of course, Adam, as we know, what does it mean in Arabic? It means the adaptable earthling. من أديم الأرض. رب العالمين created him من أديم الأرض. So he is, the meaning of Adama also is about adaptability. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O children of Adam, we have sent upon you garments or garmenting that hides your fallibilities, your vulnerability, and luxury, and the garment of awareness that is best. That is of God's signs, perchance they may remember. ذلك خير, ذلك من آيات الله. الله العليم, that this ذلك خير is about taqwa, and ذلك من آيات الله is about taqwa. So we have 3 levels of garmenting in life. I mean, you can just look around you in life. You have 3 levels of garmenting. What do you do with garment? The first thing you do with your libas is you cover your vulnerability. So you cover yourself from heat, you cover yourself from the cold, you cover yourself from shame, you cover yourself from discomfort. So that's the first level, which covers your vulnerability. Libasan yuwari what sawatikum. And the second one is warishan. Rishan is actually the French word and the English word arish and rich come from the Arabic. And there are so many words that I've discovered while I'm doing Quran that actually come from Arabic. And it would do people who don't know Arabic well to have a little lexicon of those words, because that way they know so many words of the Quran without even knowing that they know them. So the word rish, which means rich. So what is that? It is something which is a luxury which you don't really need. So Rabb al-Alameen anzala alayna, he gave us what? Libasan yuwari sawatina, which is to cover our vulnerabilities. And he gave us rish, he gave us luxuries. So these are not necessities, but we like them, we love them, we use them just for embellishment. And he gave us the garment of awareness that is best, that is of utmost good, and that is a sign of Allah, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. So what does Shaytaan do? He tries you by fire. So, O children of Adam, do not let the deviant Shaytaan ever try you by fire, just as he got your parents out of the garden, stripping them of their garment. Now, interesting, garment. Which garment? It's one. يَنْزِعُ عَنْهُمَا لِبَاسَهُمَا. What does that mean? It means that they were both wearing one garment. If you know Arabic, you will notice libas is one, okay? Not both of their garments. So it means that they had one garment. So what garment is that? It's not the fig leaf. Otherwise, it would be more than one. What is it? It is the garment of taqwa. It is the garment of taqwa. يَنْزِعُ عَنْهُمَا لِبَاسَهُمَا لِيُرِيَهُمَا سَوْآتِهِمَا. What did he want to show them? Their fallibilities, their weaknesses. And that's when he was able, I mean, once they came to earth, all our weaknesses were what? Were displayed. Khalas. Now, on earth, indeed, he and his kind see you from whence you do not see them. Verily, we have rendered the deviant friends of those who have not attained faith. So people who don't have faith or trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the deviants could be their friends. And many of them, the deviants, are their friends. What does he want to do? He wants to remove the libas of taqwa. So what are you left with when the libas of taqwa is gone? You're left with, what are you left with? Look at that. You had before 3 levels. Now you have 2. What has happened? Level 2 has become the most important. Level 2 has become the most important. It's become the highest. There's no higher. For the faithful person, level 3 is there. For the unfaithful person, level 3 is not there. So what's the highest? The highest is the rish. So if you're wondering why what's happening today is happening, and the wealth that people are up for grabs, this is one reason. Subhanallah. So God's favor and mercy is in his messengers, and in his messages and his messengers. And what is it? What is his favor and mercy mostly in when we talk about his messenger and his messages? It's to instruct us and to purify us. So his messages and his messengers are there to instruct us and to purify us. As this ayah says, هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم. Why? يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. What he's doing is relating upon them his signs, purifying purifying them and teaching them or impressing upon them the compilation and wisdom, even though before that they were in manifest error. So that's the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us his favor when he says that he completed his favor upon us when the Quran was completed. So that's one of his favors. Now, for us to be God's worshipers in truth, we have to be asking for his mercy and asking for his favors. And the way to do that, remember, is to be vulnerable, is to be compliant, is to be loving, is to be adoring. When we say, I adore him, you can only say that about God in truth, because adoring is almost worshiping. It's not loving. It's even more. It's a kind of love that has to do with worship. So when we do that, that is called tadarru'. And the interesting thing I wanted to show you, that tadarru', you might wonder why that picture came in first. It's because I'm explaining the word dara. Dara is the udder of the mother when she is giving suckling to her newborn. So when we are doing tadarru', Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about tadarru' and dara'a. So when we are doing tadarru', we are actually so vulnerable and so compliant and so in need of him. And also, please be careful. It's not just that. It's just that, not only need, not only compliance, not only love. What does the baby have for his mother as well? What does the baby have for the mother as well? He has what? He has assurance that she's going to feed him. The baby has complete assurance that the mother is going to, he has yaqeen. So the baby has not just compliance, love, and need, he has yaqeen. And this is what tadarru' is. Tadarru' is from, as I said, from the root verb dara'a, which is about the dara', which is about being like a newborn baby who has those feelings of tadarru'. So that's how we should be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's how we gain Allah's mercy and favor even more. The Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? He said that there's, to the meaning of this, no fatigue, nor sickness, nor worry, nor sorrow, nor hurt, nor distress befalls a Muslim, even if it were a thorn prick, but that God covers through it some of his khataya. So even when you get a prick of thorn, and if you're talking about fitna now, even if you get pain of fitna, even the fitna is troubling you, it is still something which is not just cleaning your core, it is something which is giving you a lot of what? Maghfirah and takfir, a lot of that because of your, so what does the ayah say? Ala yasbirun. You have to be patiently persevere. Allah is talking to us. He's saying, atasbirun. Will you patiently persevere? So this is something some of you may not have heard before. And this is also the meaning of tasbih. So what do? We do tadarru' and we do tasbih. What is tasbih? Some people think tasbih is to say subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. That is the tasbih by mouth. Yes. But then there's the tasbih with your entire core, with your entire existence. What is tasbih? And what does everything on earth, not every animal, not every living creature, everything. وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ إِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُمْ. There is not a thing. So a thing means a shay is a thing. It's not a living thing. So every single thing on earth, يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ you do not understand its tasbih. So what is the meaning of tasbih? Tasbih is constant motion. كالسباحة, from the word sabaha, to swim. If you stop moving, you will drown. Same thing with tasbih. Every single thing on earth is in constant motion in devotion. Motion in devotion. That's tasbih. But it's sometimes unwilling devotion. In willing and unwilling devotion. So let's say the person who does not have faith and trust in God, he is not doing tasbih with his awareness, not doing tasbih with his heart and mind, but his brain and his heart as an organ is doing tasbih, of course. Why? Because it is moving in devotion in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had put in it to fulfill its potential. Every single thing on earth, whether a creature or whether a living creature or a jamad, something which is not a living thing, it has its own tasbih. And what does it do? It does that to fulfill its potential. Now, why did I bring this here? Why am I talking about this? Because even fitna has its tasbih. Even war, even fire has its tasbih. It's working to fulfill its potential, the potential to burn, the potential to hurt, the potential to remove your core. But of course, you are opposing that with what? With what you are doing, with your tasbih. So the whole world is in tasbih. But when we do our tasbih in willing devotion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with tadarru, with sabr, and we try not to harm each other because of what? Because of aggression being what? The reason for fitna. So we are in communion, we are in love, and we are in light if we are doing that. And that's the best way to get out of anything that is harmful or hurtful. We are in communion with Him. Al-qalb ya'aqil wa yafqah. So the human heart has aql and it has fiqh. So how can it be just an organ pumping blood? It isn't. And we know that that the human brain contains what they call a heart brain, 40,000 neurons, which are sensing, feeling, learning, remembering, receiving, and relaying messages. And we call it the seat of comprehension in the Quran anyway. So now we're going back to fitna again. Anger starts fitna. Anger changes your brain. It actually changes. Didn't we say that the heat, the energy changes the atom itself? So it actually changes your brain. It changes how it works, and it changes itself, and it makes it, some of its cells actually die. So what does anger do? It makes us lose communion with Allah from our side, because there is communion with Allah from our side and from His side. The communion is two-sided. But from our side, when we are angry or we are in fitna or we are in despair even. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. Allah does not want us to have qunut. Qunut is despair. Because when you have this, when you're despairing of Allah's rahmah, never despair of Allah's rahmah, you lose communion from your side. You are giving up. Despair is giving up. So you give up communion from your side. You are decomposed, you are separated, you are extracted. That's what anger does. That's what fury does. That's what ghayz does. Anger does that, and despair does that. Okay, now what about Allah? Doesn't He get angry? Now that's a question we should ask. And the answer to that question is no. Allah la yaghtaz. He doesn't have ghayz. Okay, He has something else called ghadab, and He has something else called sukht. سخط الله عليهم or غضب عليهم. So what is that? No ghayz. Ghayz is that kind of fiery anger that is boiling. And we have an ayah in the Quran about the Jahannam. The Jahannam has ghayz. It's a fiery, burning entity. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have ghayz. So why do we say He has anger, no fury? What does Allah have? He has ghadab. What is ghadab? Severity, disapproval. And what is sukht? Most severe disapproval. And the opposite of that is rida. So rida is approval. We know that. The opposite of it is sukht and ghadab, which is disapproval. So again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have ghayz. He has ghadab and sukht, the opposite of which is rida. So there is no decomposure, there is no separation, there is no extraction, there is no reaction even, which is ghayz. What do we do when we're angry? Now let us find out what we should do when we are angry. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, atasbirun. Yani that is something we do. But He told us, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. What do we do with anger? نَكْظِمُهُ. نَكْظِمُهُ means to hold it in. To hold it in and deal with it in the way that a person who loves God would deal with it. You say, I'm doing it for Allah. I'm holding my ghayz for Allah. You go and pray, you make wudu and you pray, or you actually take a bath. It depends on how much ghayz you have. So there's a hadith of the Prophet, peace upon him, which is reported to have said, anger is from Shaytaan. So if any of you are angry, he should make wudu. In another hadith, he says, فَلْيَغْتَسِلْ. Let him take a bath. So actually it's up to whatever is, however strongly you feel. So when angry, wash it away. Is that the only thing I can do when I'm angry? Physically, I mean? No. Ground it. Ground it. There's another hadith in which he's reported to have said, anger is a hot ember, a hot coal, burning in the core of Ibn Adam. If any of you feel anything like that, or some of that, then فَالْأَرْضِ الْأَرْضِ. He didn't say go to the ground. He didn't say lie on the ground. He did not say any word other than فَالْأَرْضِ الْأَرْضِ. It is so eloquent. If any of you feel something of that, then the ground it. What does that mean? Go lie down on the ground. And of course, what does that mean too? You can pray, because when you pray, you put your forehead to the ground. You are grounding yourself. So if you are angry, ground yourself. Wash it away. Subhanallah. That's why messengers and the messages, they are what? Instructions to us. They are ni'mah. So fitnah surrounds us. How do we avoid it? By taqwa, awareness, taqwa. Even anger. How do we everything? I mean, when we speak about taqwa, you have to really say, use taqwa for everything. Why? It's true. Because every action you do can be done with taqwa or without taqwa. Even when you're eating or drinking, I can drink with taqwa, drink without taqwa. I can eat, I can speak with taqwa, speak without taqwa. Anything I do, I can do it with taqwa and do it without taqwa. Taqwa is something as people of faith, inshallah, we should be doing. We can be doing adwan even when we are overusing water, overdoing something, whatever it is, overdoing it or underdoing it. Could be adwan. Taqwa is being aware and doing what is right. Taqwa is the opposite of adwan. Awareness is the opposite of not an awareness. People think that awareness is the opposite of unawareness. No, awareness is the opposite of aggression. And the Quran says that in 2 ayahs. But the beauty of, ya habibi, the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands is that He commands us with what? He knows our limits. So what does He say? فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, as much as you possibly can. So alhamdulillah, He told us as much as we possibly can. So we have to actually try harder, but yani He's telling me to do it as much as I can. Today I won't be able to do much. Tomorrow I'll be able to do more, because everything is what? Practice. So taqwa, awareness, is a necessity amongst us. Adwan versus taqwa. So if I want to gain taqwa, how do I gain taqwa? Well, following the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Those of you who have been with me when we discussed the Sirat al-Mustaqim, you know where it is in Surah Al-An'am. Follow the Sirat al-Mustaqim. وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. Any other sabil you go through or you go towards will take you away from His sabil. ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. You know that this is what His wasiyah is. What's a wasiyah? Those of you who have been with us for a while, you know. Wasiyah is what you instruct people generation after generation. That's the wasiyah. You give it to somebody and they should give it to others, and they should give it to others, and it should continue generation after generation. That's what Allah's wasiyah is. To follow the Sirat al-Mustaqim and not to follow any other of those small subul. And also, so the prescription for taqwa number 1 is following the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Prescription for taqwa number 2 is what? اعبدوا ربكم. Worship God. يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Perchance you may have taqwa. And of course, fasting. يا الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Fasting. Now, why is fasting so helpful? Because it is the opposite of what? Of adwan. It is taqwa. All your basal instincts, meaning your animal instinct, all your animal instincts, your bashari instincts, not your insani instincts, your bashari instincts. You know, we are bashar and then we are also insan. بنفخة الروح. So as bashar, we have those instincts: eating, drinking, speaking freely. You know, if we are married, we also do that. So in siyam, we don't do any of that. And in siyam, we have what? Levels of siyam, in which also the most khawas al-khawas are those who only think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during their siyam. So prescriptions for taqwa are available in the Quran. We should be actually taking those prescriptions for taqwa. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً. Beware of a burning tribulation, a trial by fire, which does not befall the wrongdoers amongst you specifically. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has what we call sunnatul hayat. So sunnatul hayat is that when something happens, it touches everybody around it. It cannot be contained to certain people. It has to happen to most people around that person. So even when there's a tribulation, it happens to everybody included, and also spreads. Fire spreads. Fire is dangerous. So be careful. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. And iqab is not punishment. We don't use the word punishment because that's not the meaning of aqaba. It is about consequence. And so keep in mind that God is severe in delivering consequence. Whatever you do, you get the consequence. Imma ajilan wa imma ajilan. Either you get it immediately or you get it after a while. So beware, because the fitna, when it comes, it will touch the wrongdoers, but they will not be alone. And sometimes, unfortunately, it touches them last in life. Now, what is the most grievous of fitna, which is worse than qatl? We spoke about that last week, and it was what? إخراج أهله منه أكبر عند الله والفتنة أكبر من القتل. Being pushed out of your home, becoming a refugee. We spoke about that, if you remember, last week. Taken out of, because remember what we said, we talked about the fitna of you you emotionally being given the fitna emotionally. We talked about that, which leaves achieves only your core character. But this fitna here is not just emotional. It is emotional. It is both emotional and physical. So this fitna here, which we're talking about, is both emotional and physical. Actually, it's the physical which brought on the emotional. The physical fitna, which is ikhraju ahli, which is what? Which is removing people, the inhabitants, from their own home. That is the worst kind of fitna, and it is worse than actually being dead. If you say, you would actually say, I wish I were dead. You would say, I wish I were dead rather than this happening to me. And this is the greatest fitna. And actually, this is what we were talking about last week when one of our sisters mentioned that the most grievous of separations is the separation from Allah. And she made us all cry, Habibti, when she talked about that. The most grievous of separations is the separation from Allah. What do I mean by grievous? I mean, it gives us grief. It gives us grief. It breaks us. The separation from Allah. We don't want to be separate. We want to be in communion with Him. La ilaha illallah. So being separated from Allah is the most painful. Why? Because we're talking about people separated from their homes on earth. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our home. There, where He is our home. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Where He is our home. That's where we belong. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we shall afflict you with something of fear and hunger, some loss of wealth and selves and fruits, but give glad tidings to those who patiently persevere. بشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Upon those will be the blessings of communion from God. Upon those who sabaru, right? So we have the fact that they sabaru, as we said, atasbirun. He was asking us in the beginning of our talk today, atasbirun. And now he's telling us what? That we say, after we do that, we try to have the sabr, we say, we keep repeating on our tongue, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So even if one is taken out of their home, even if one is separated from their core, even if one has the most severe of fitna, keep saying, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. You will find everything becoming what? Less severe, because you don't belong here. You are lillah, and you are going back to Allah. You do not belong in whatever. Remember what we showed you, those steps: al-libas, libas yuwari sawatikum, wa rishan, right? Wa libasu taqwa. And when taqwa was removed, people were left with the wealth and the libas yuwari sawa. This is what we have. We have libas yuwari sawatina, and we have rish. Everything around us is libas yuwari sawatina. Our homes are libas yuwari sawatina and rish. So when they are taken, what if we still have libas taqwa? What if our homes are taken and our everything is taken? May Allah not send us that fitna. But let's say that everything is taken, but taqwa remains. What do you think? Or taqwa is taken and everything else remains. What do you think? Inshallah, we will not go through that test. Ya Rab, may we never go through that test. But if we do, on our tongues should be inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And you will notice that the awareness will return. The awareness will help you. The awareness will be there. Ulaika, Allah says. Ulaika. He's promising you. Ulaika meaning those people. Like when we say, Iyaka na'bud wa iyaka nasta'in. We are saying you alone. And in the same way, God is saying, Ulaika. They alone. They indeed. He is asserting, they indeed. Ulaika alayhim salawatun min rabbihim wa rahmah. They indeed shall have upon them shall be the blessings of communion from God and mercy. And they indeed are the guided. And here you notice, al-muhtadun, not alladhina ihtadaw. Allah is mentioning them not by the verb, mentioning them by the noun. Ulaika hum al-muhtadun. Subhanak ya Rab. So let's keep on saying, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. You know what? Even if something breaks in your house, you break your cup, you say, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi. Get used to that. Get your children used to that. You break a cup, you say, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. It's really quite, sometimes it is something we should get used to. Even if we say it sometimes when things are funny, like, you're putting on your lipstick, you break you're using your pen, your pencil, and it breaks or something. You say, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi. It might be something, simple like that, but say it. And if you say it enough, you will get used to it. And then when something big happens, it's the first thing you will say. And Allah will return saying, Alayki salawat, alayka salawat. Both of you, man and woman, whether you're a child or an adult, get used to it, and you will be saying that, and Allah will be saying, alaykum salawat min rabbikum wa rahmah. Alaykum salawat min rabbikum. And He will say, you are al-muhtadun. You are the guided. Alhamdulillah. So each of us has a live relationship with Allah. Iqra, by the exalting attribute of your Lord, sustainer, who created. We're talking about now the live relationship, the communion, all of that. What's happening? It's a live relationship in the now. Al-insan, and then the next level, Al-Quran, and then Ar-Rahman. So to have that live relationship with Ar-Rahman, it is for us today, it's through the Quran. That's the best way to do it. Although you can have a live relationship in many ways, just by being insan, you have that live relationship, but through the Quran is the best way to have it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He say? Iqra, by the exalted attribute of your Lord, sustainer, who created. He created the cognizant human from alaq. And we took that, some of you are seeing this slide again, we took that before. Alaq is an example of interpretation that evolved with human knowledge. So the first thing people thought alaq when they saw the, what was in a miscarriage, what was left is a small clot, congealed clot of blood. And then when they were able to look through microscopes, it looked like a leech. So they said alaq is a leech because in Arabic, alaqa is a leech. And then when they looked through the laparoscopy, when they looked through that, they found that it's hanging in the womb. And they said, alaqa, because, Arabs, my grandmother's time, they used to call the chandelier alaqa. And until today, in some parts of Arabia, Lebanon especially, they would say allaqt al-daw. Allaqt al-daw meaning I turned on the light. So this is funny. What do you mean allaqt? What did you hang? You didn't hang anything. But because their grandmothers used to say that allaqt, meaning allaqat, yani I hung. So the alaqa, the leech, was alaqa. And then the next step, which, as I said, when they looked through the laparoscope and they saw the fetus hanging in the womb, they said what? Oh, this is it. This is the alaq, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خلق الإنسان من علق. But you see, alaq is not the same as alaqa. There's another ayah, He said, Allah says, alaqa famudgha, kasawna al-mudghata idham, and He talks about something which is a alaqah. He's naming it. But here He is giving us ism jins. Alaq is something, not what it is made of. خلق الإنسان من علق. So what does that mean? Now, what happens is that after that, we looked at the DNA and we found the DNA interacting with each other, alaqat. It's full of interaction and relationships. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala khalaqa الإنسان من علق, which is also alaqat, all sorts of relationships, all the way back to Allahu A'lam, probably Adam, Allahu A'lam, and how far back it goes, the alaq to the earth. So all of that is part of the alaq. But also, if you look at language and context, you can take it to seem something else. Because if you look up the root verb alaqa in the lexicon, it says أصل صحيح يرجع إلى معنى واحد وهو أن يناط الشيء بالشيء العالي. It means connectedness of the lower to the higher. So subhanallah, I think, wallahu a'lam, I'm not going to say anything because Allah knows, this is all ghaib, but Allahu a'lam, this might also refer to alaq, which is our connectedness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, wa khalaqa al-insana, when He did what? Nafakha fihi min ruhihi, and that's when He became insan. He was before that bashar. So the insan is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that kind of communion. So it is actually quite a strong kind of communion. خلق الإنسان من علق. So it is the connectedness of the lower to the higher. The connectedness of the lower to the higher. Same thing. Always remember those steps which I showed you. لباسا يواري سوآتكم وريشا ولباس التقوى ذلك خير. You cannot be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without taqwa. Anybody who says I'm connected to God and they don't have taqwa, how are they connected to God? They've lost the last step. The steps getting there. Taqwa is the step that gets you there. So each of us has a live relationship with Allah. People who have lost it have actually been named dead in the Quran. There's several ayahs in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّكَ لَا تُسْمِعُ الْمَوْتَى, and referring to people who don't want to listen. They've been called dead. So let us reclaim divine love. It is ours. This is our right. I want to reclaim divine love. So now when you leave this talk today, go and reclaim divine love. It is yours. And I'm going to show you how, inshallah, how to understand it, I mean. Because the word love is Arabic. The word love is Arabic. It's not Arabic because we don't use it in Arabic anymore. We say like hub, but the English word love comes from Arabic. It actually comes in the etymology. You look it up. It comes from lebba, lebba. And lebba in Arabic means the heart, the core of something. And Arabs used it to mean mind, as in labib, intelligent or witty. It's derived from the root verb labba. What does it refer to? So it's not just love, it's a special kind of love. So listen, it refers to being both physically present and emotionally settled, because you know your emotions should be settled with someone whom you really love, not that your emotions are, you know, going back and forth, or they're making you do things which are crazy. That's not love. That's not labba. Labba is what? Being both physically present and emotionally settled and attached. In other words, present, dedicated, and committed. I am present, I am dedicated, I am committed. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Here I am, fully present, lovingly devoted, and steadfastly committed to you, to the depth of my lub, to the depth of my heart. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Another word is would. So we have towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have the word labba and we have the word hub, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has hub, yuhibbuhum wa yuhibbuna. He has that word as well, which as a verb. It's never used as a noun. But here we're going to talk about a word which is used as a noun. And that word is would. What is the difference between love and would? Remember what we talked about love? Love, labba yani, is now being present, emotionally committed, attached, right now. That's the beauty of labba. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. I'm here, I'm attached, I'm committed. What is would? Would is not about that at all. Would is similar to love, except that it is about what? Anticipation for the future. It is about thabat, which is meaning never changing, and it is about more love to come, everlasting love in the future. Or let's not use the word future, because you know we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no past or future or present. Let's just call it everlasting love. So the beauty of would is an anticipation, and it is about thabat wa khulus wa juda, about purity, about excellence, and about stability, and about what? About being everlasting. Something which is always, there is more to come. Now the beauty of would is that God brings would, which is love and everlasting love, into existence. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Verily those who attain faith and perform good deeds, the compassionate Creator will render for them wood. So the wood amongst us is Allah gives the wood amongst us. He brings all that wood. That's why he says al-mawadda fil qurba. That's why he says about the married couple, mawaddatan wa rahma. Here he talks about in this ayah about al-mawadda fil qurba. No recompense for this do I ask of you, said the Prophet peace upon him to his people. Only that you give me the mawadda fil qurba. Only the mawadda, the love in kinship. And this is what we have in between us, mawadda. So when I talk to my best friends these days, I tell them I have mawadda for you, because that's something which is always what, not just about now, but also about an everlasting kind of love. And the Creator, Jalla wa ala, وَهُوَ الْغَفُورُ الْوَدُودُ ذُو الْعَرْشِ الْمَجِيدُ فَعَّالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. He is the oft forgiving, the loving forevermore. So this is the word, this is the noun by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls himself Al-Wadud. So whoever says that there's no word in the Quran to express God as the loving God, tell them you don't know anything then. You don't even know what Al-Wadud means. And as Maulana Jalaluddin al-Rumi said, all loves are a bridge to divine love, yet those who have not had a taste of it do not know. All loves are a bridge to divine love, yet those who have not had a taste of it, meaning divine love, do not know. So subhanallah, from now on, I would, it would be wonderful if you would use the word would when you speak about divine love. So may the world understand that loving the Creator means loving his creation and having mawadda with everybody around us, inshallah. And that is is the best way to do what? To counter fitna. The best way to counter fitna is to have what? Awareness and no aggression and mawadda for everybody, inshallah. And that was the Iqra principle, bringing you the whole concept of fitna in the an. So today's discussion was the importance of names, linguistic definitions, Quran, fatana and fitna, Shaytaan's MO, God's favor and mercy, our communion, our tasbih, anger as in ghayz versus ghadab. Ghayz is what we have and Allah tells us to hold back, whereas ghadab is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, which is not what? Which does not do the same things that the ghayz does. There's absolutely no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change and is not affected by anything we do. So what do we do regarding anger? What do we do regarding fitna? Sabr, awareness, right? And we talked about taqwa and communion, about alaq, the live relationship of the lower to the higher. We talked about reclaiming love and the meaning of labbaik Allahumma labbaik, and about wood, and about the special kind of love, which we hope that inshallah we will all have towards each other. And with this we conclude our prayer.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين